I mean, this is like
Jeez.
such an incredible little like array of situations just falling into place, and not just falling into your lap because you worked your ass off for it, but you wonder, well, how do you get to this level? Well, you go get really good training, and from that training, you're going to meet somebody, and from that person, they're going to introduce you to this person, and then boom, 15 years later, you're killing it and you've got a great team behind you, and that's exactly kind of how it happens, at least for some. So you obviously took a couple meetings and you landed a couple of reps. You booked something right out of essentially right
Everyone's
out the
coming
top.
out of school, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to do that. My team doesn't really think. They're like, okay,
You just got
okay,
No,
Q.
Ben with the team.
I wish it was that gilded and that fancy, but what happened was, like, I got out of school and I had this great agent and manager, and I was like, all right, I'm hitting the ground running and I'm auditioning for everything under the sun, which was great. But it was 2 years of auditioning, not getting anything. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
oh yeah,
Even Rappaport can't book 2 years out of
oh
college.
come on,
Everybody
yeah.
listen to it. No, that's important to know because we've got to understand that there are going to be years or months or however long it is where things aren't happening or you think that they're not happening when really wheels are turning, you just don't see them, and
Right.
eventually things fall in, and it's those people who quit before the things fall. They were there for the wrong reasons or they weren't there
Right.
for the I guess the right reasons, and you just keep going, you just keep going, you just keep going, and it's just nice to know that even someone who's being heavily pursued by professionals in our industry, it sometimes takes a little while to get things going, so
Yeah.
so
And
I'm
even
glad that you got to experience that. Everybody needs to suffer a little bit at
oh
least,
my God.
and so to know that,
And
I'm
it
sure
had
that
just
helps
been
you going
smooth
forward.
Oh,
sailing for Ben.
Right, ever
yeah,
since then.
oh my, you guys have no idea. I mean, like, yeah, that's the tricky thing is, like, even in a successful couple after a successful string of projects, couple of years, the bottom falls out and then you're
Right.
like, I can't make rent, I can't get work. I've had many ups and downs over the years where, like, the whole busyness of why it took us so long to connect. Like, before that, I was in one of the driest spells I've been in years, and that's one of many. So it's like it's important to remember that. I think, like, as a culture, it's so ingrained in us to have this idea of success is a forward moving ascent of, like, a ladder.
Right.
The whole idea of, like, climbing the corporate ladder or whatever that is, like, that is ingrained in us. And unfortunately, if your career and your path doesn't line up with this sort of prescribed ascent, it feels like failure. It feels, you know what I mean?
100%. I was so when I had a pretty big actor pull me aside and after asking the question, he said, "By the way, I had 8 straight years, not too recently, where I just didn't have much going for me. Things stopped, and then boom, like So I taught for a little bit. I did some odd jobs, and yeah, you
Right.
acted a little bit in between, but it was a drought, and you need to expect that there are going to be droughts with an S, and that's part of the game. I
It
mean,
will happen.
I've never been in a drier spell than during COVID, maybe right
Oh,
before through COVID and up to now. Things are cooking for later, but I have to constantly remind myself that I'm in this for the long haul. This is a 60-year career, and there
yeah.
are going to be these ups and downs. There is no ascension. It's just this. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no mathematical equation to where this thing is going. It's just ups and downs. And I think it's up to us to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I'm still doing good things. I'm still on this path, even though I'm not in front of a camera right now. It does not mean that I'm going backwards. So,
No,
so
and
I'm
it's
so glad
it's
that it introduced itself to you so quickly.
no, I think it's key in, like, how I sort of how I conducted myself, for the years afterwards, because all the jobs that came in the time after,
Yeah,
I was so grateful.
you were humble, weren't
I
you,
was
Benny?
humbled. Yes,
Big
my
time.
God, and I still am. It's because when you're gifted something, it's also like, it's humbling when you're on an amazing job. It might be like the most exciting time in your career, and the very next year you can't get anything to save your life. It's extremely humbling. And like when you're constantly like it's whiplash, you know.
Slightly volatile.
It's like it's violent, you know what I mean?
Worse than the fucking stock market.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like for us, you know.
Oh, amen.
But
all
that
right,
was
so
good,
these
though.
2 years
like
are up.
it's such a young age, you know, and you're not even done with school, and you have these major industry people kind of courting you. It's
Yeah.
easy to get your head wrapped in that of like, oh, I'm about to be a fucking superstar,
Right. It's
and then have
intoxicating.
that 2 years, and you go, well,
Okay.
this is reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and
But like you were saying about being grateful, like, hello,
right.
Hello.
hello.
Hello.